Hey guys, hope we're all good. Just finally got myself a wee microphone that came today, so I thought I'd just do a quick last review before I hibernate for a few weeks with my parents visiting. So yeah, I just thought it'd be a good chance to give people a look at the RNF Retro compared with the Seaside. As I discussed, I've ridden both. They're both really impressive boards. Both got tons of speed, heaps of fun. They both got a retro vibe and a retro glide to them. As I said before, we're comparing a 41 litre 511 to a 43.5 litre 6.2. So they were basically bought for two different jobs. And there are definitely some differences and some similarities between them. I actually didn't think there'd be that many similarities, but there are actually similarities as well. So, as I've said before, I thought I'd investigate the Seaside first. So the big difference with the Seaside, obviously, as I say, 511, so it's quite short. It's only 41 litres. As you can see, it fins out quite heavily in the back of the tail, and there's quite a lot of meat up front. So there's probably almost more meat up in the front of this than that, almost, even though size to size they're completely different boards. The Seaside takes a little bit more getting used to, but it's very high performance, and it's got definitely a little bit of something special to it. I've ridden this Seaside in probably like chest high to like well overhead, and it's performed and everything, held on and everything. Like most boards this wide and this flat, you can sometimes have a little bit of struggle just getting the rail deep in, but as you know, I ride boards that are quite high volume, full stop, let alone for my size, and I've lost a bit of weight recently. So yeah, so that's the Seaside. The Seaside's really good, does everything, it's quite high performance. I think the big difference I would say between these two is I think you would be more upset if you oversized this than you would if you oversized that. This one's 41 litres for me, and I was kind of worried about that because I like my grovellers around 42, even 43, and especially in epoxy and especially with helium, because helium's really light. So I don't think it would have been too difficult for me to go down one size on this, but then that would also have taken it into the basically chest to overhead range for what it would ride, and that's pretty much, you know, you could, but you're probably not always picking this kind of board for that. So yeah, although like I say here locally it's quite a slow wave and a bit of a longboard wave, or it's almost like a long reeling slow point with long walls to have some good turns on. So in terms of developing its own speed, this one's really good. They're both really good. And then, so yeah, so what I would say is this one's a little bit more performance, but if this one was the same volume as that one, or if this one was a size smaller than this is, it would still be, they'd be getting closer towards each other on volume. And this one would carry extra volume, I would say, better than that one. I would say, especially with epoxy and with helium and with all the meat being up in the front, I would say if you're going to size one up to be a more of a groveler, it's probably going to be this one. If you don't like if you don't like epoxy for any reason, well, this one's a winner basically. So as you can see, the main thing with this is, you know, take into account that this is a poly and it's carrying almost 2.5 more litres than that. So the big thing I would say is this carries some volume into the tail, and most of the volume's through this area, and then it carries some volume into the tail more so than the Seaside, but it also doesn't carry masses in the nose. So at 43.5 litres, this still is easy to paddle, easy to ride, feels good, still performs fairly well, to be quite honest, at this size, because it's quite a big size. And then you know, as we said, we've got these, you've got your retro, you've got your more of your retro swallowtail, you've got these step and a side cut in the tail shape. Pretty similar in the way you stand up on this straight away and it accelerates. They've both got really long, smooth carving turns, so they both got that Fishy vibe. They're not performance boards. They're not for like blasting off the top like nuts, unless you're riding one really short and a really, you know, if you're a really high performance surfer and you're riding a mini one, yeah, you're gonna rip on it. But yeah, no, I think they're designed to generate speed easily, carry speed, continue carrying speed through turns, and They're really good for your average guys in average waves, and they've got a bit of, like say, that one I've ridden well overhead. This one I've ridden just a bit overhead, and it was still gripping alright. Obviously, poly's usually a bit more settled in the water, so even with the extra volume in this, it was alright. Both boards dedicated quads. Both boards working really nice with these split keels. If anything, if you downsize this, I'd say you'd probably have more of a chance of riding this with a slightly smaller fin than that, surprisingly enough, but that's possibly the epoxy, but kind of hard to say, you know, if you don't take them out on the same day in the same wave. So yeah, that's basically the quick comparison. So if you rode them in the same volume and size, like I say, that's 41 litres. If this was a 6.0, it would be 40.5 and still 22 wide. That one is 5.10 and 5.11, and it's 22 and a bit wide. So if you rode this down in a similar volume to that, you'd pull it more into the performance end. And I would say this one will carry the extra volume better than this one. So if you're really looking at sizing the board up, like if say you're a bigger guy or a taller guy, or you're just not comfortable on anything under 6.0, you know, these are a bit more stubby, but they really perform well and they really paddle well. If something that short freaks you out, you could get something slightly longer in this, and maybe you could even fin it out if you wanted to. Or if you just don't like epoxy, well, that's a really great board in poly. Different boards, but similar boards. You know, in this one, I'd say probably wouldn't be like really groveling on it, but it does go really well, and it does grovel as well. So it'll go in, you know, I'd say its range is like waist to overhead, and its sweet spot, it's probably chest to head. Whereas this one, it will go in probably similar, probably go in waist to not quite as far overhead as that one, but it will have a sweet spot of kind of like waist to head. So the actual sweet spots aren't a million miles off each other. It's just that this is probably going to handle just a little bit more at the high end. But then there's a certain reassurance with poly over epoxy sometimes. Well, these heelings are really good, but they're also really light. So yeah, that is about that. I just wanted to see if the microphone helps any and gets the volume and my voice a bit clearer for you guys. So if you got any feedback, let me know. And yep, so you've seen both the boards together. Like I say, it's not apples with apples. This one I got at the volume I got because I was worried about the next one up, because that was like 44.5 litres. So in an epoxy, in a helium, it's going to be a lot of volume. And then this one, I didn't worry too much about oversizing it, because I know in a poly, like I've got a 45 litre board in a poly that's still okay. So yeah, that's one thing. And as I say, I would say this is the one that you want to be careful not to over volume. So this one I think you should be voluming at probably about your performance hybrid volume, and you could maybe go down if you're feeling risky. This one, if you really want to rip, you can scale that down to your sort of performance hybrid volume. And if you want a cruiser and you want really easy paddling, you can put this right up at your grovel volume, and you know, possibly even a bit more. So basically, I went out on this one yesterday. I'm about to go for a surf again now, but went out on this one yesterday, and I wasn't scratching or kicking hard into any of the waves. I was basically lazy paddling into all of the waves, and that's incredible for a 6.2 fish. And the minute you stood up, instant speed and hold speed all the way through the turn. You just can't turn quite as quick as maybe as you can on that, but they're both excellent boards for generating speed, carrying lots of speed, catching lots of waves. And most people's average waves are generally like waist to just about head or overhead high. So either of these boards are a good choice. Yeah, I actually wasn't expecting this one to feel as special as it does, and the Seaside has been quite hyped, so I was kind of expecting that to be quite special, and it is. But I've sort of realised how similar that they could be to each other in certain conditions. So yeah, I definitely think both got a really cruisy vibe about them. And again, just however you size them is going to be important to you, to what you want to get out of it. So yeah, cheers guys, thanks a lot, catch you.